So REAPS is a charitable nonprofit. We've been around since 1989, and we were established with the collection of newspaper. The board at the time and volunteers saw a great need to take the low-hanging fruit. So newspaper was collected and then backhauled down to Vancouver on the overweighties trucks at the time. And since then, the compost demonstration garden was established in '94. I came in '95, and it was established to show how easy it is for residents to backyard compost. So taking care of their own kitchen scraps, yard and garden waste. And if you do that, you have about 35 to 45% of your household waste can be diverted from the landfill. And from there, having an active garden to show what grows in our colder climates, which is a zone 3, we started establishing fruits, vegetables, medicinal plants, fruit bushes, and native plants, medicinal plants, and perennials. And that way it gives visitors, residents, an opportunity to come around and see what grows in Prince George, what does well. And then from there we've added different things throughout the year. So we have rainwater collection, we have lawn alternatives, 6 different types of plants that you can plant to reduce the amount of watering that we're seeing on our lawns. And then we developed over the years about 33 school presentations. And so everything from land, water, air, and to encourage solid waste reduction in the school, in the home, and also in businesses. We do waste audits, waste assessments for local governments and businesses. We have a compost collection that we collect in a normal year from about 9 different businesses, their waste. We work with the IC and I sector, so industrial, commercial, and institutional sector, and how they can reduce their footprint. We do a lot of outreach in the community, from community groups, Beavers, Scouts, to the local Lions Club, and other businesses. And we partner with a number of different agencies, so from food poverty to food security, to brain injured. We work with the jail, we work with the inmates, so there's a whole gamut. We're really invested in the community. So our basic thing is to reduce waste. So whether it's from the home or from the yard, we look at what we can do and just point people in a greener alternative. So making those personal changes, so trying to reduce the single-use plastic bag, trying to look at what we can do when we go shopping, buying local. Currently we're working with everyone at the table, so we're looking at 7 different sectors of food security. And so at the garden, we offer a number of workshops, from zero waste, composting, vermicomposting, recycling, green gardening, and beneficial insects. So there's a number of programs that we put on throughout the year. Do-it-yourself produce bags, do-it-yourself gift bags, making your own household cleaners, or just to name some of the stuff that we have. So when we talk about backyard composting, we have to remember that it's a living, breathing system. It requires food, water, and oxygen. And you can have a container or not have a container, but you have to remember to turn it at least 2 to 3 times a week, ensuring it's moist, like a wrung out sponge, and feeding it a balance of browns and greens. So browns would be your carbon, which is needed for energy. Greens are for reproduction and growth of your organisms in your composter. Then you will have success. Always be mindful of our neighbors that live in the forest, and cover your food waste with a non-food source. And then we get into vermicomposting. We have what's called a Adopt a Worm program within the school. So we have about 22 classrooms that harbor our worms for the school year. So the red wigglers, they thrive in kitchen waste. And so they don't do well outdoors, so we developed a program in which school children will adopt a bin for the classroom feeding their lunch waste. And that way they learn about worms as a #1 recycler in the environment. And so these red wiggler worms engage the students on environmental issues. And we have a newsletter that supports the worms in the classroom. So it's called Castings. On one side it's all about worms, and then the second side is the REAPS reader that talks about environmental issues and things that students can do. We also do a big community event called Junk in the Trunk. So we've been running that twice a year, and I'd say about 10 years now. And it allows people to get rid of their belongings, because one man's junk is another man's treasure. So it's a great big community event where there's 125 vendors, and over 3,000 to 5,000 people attend. And fingers crossed, depending on what happens in October, we'll be hosting it again. So it hasn't happened. We missed 3 of them, right? So hopefully that occurs. We also do other things within the community, big events. We do the spring cleanup, citywide spring cleanup, and that happens in April. We also work with the schools to cleaning up their yards with the students, and so that keeps us very busy. The citywide spring cleanup usually has anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 participants, and we generate and log all the area and the volume collected. So that's a partnership with the regional district, waste haulers, and the city of Prince George. So every bed is labeled. So we have like the perennial bed, we have our pergola, our vegetable beds, we have perennial shade bed, native bed, and then we have, the middle is scent, and then we have our fruit bushes along the back, and then on the far left with the greenhouse and the medicinal bed, and then the lawn alternatives. So that just gives the public a general idea of what is possible to grow in this area. Yeah, and so right now it's just a matter of getting up on the weeds and maintenance and harvesting. Harvesting. Our grapes won't be ready until beginning of October because they have to go through a cold spell. So they're nice plump green ones right now, and then they turn a dark reddish purple, and then after the cold spell they become sweet. You don't want them until they're sweet. We've been picking our black currants, our red currants, our gooseberries, and our Saskatoon. Raspberries are gone, strawberries are gone. The honeyberries, they got transplanted last year, so this year they weren't happy. So I'm not sure if that's because of the sun, so I just have to watch them a little bit more to see what happens next year. Yeah, so we still have some daycares and summer camps coming through, so we do presentations here too. One of the favorite ones is Buggy Bingo. So kids go around and they find bugs that are on our bingo sheet, whether they're live or whether they're not. Because when we start this in May, all our bugs aren't out, so we have plastic ones that we hide along the garden so they can find. So slugs, butterflies, beetles, worms, those sort of things. Yeah. So that's quite a favorite for the kids, and then they get a stamp afterwards once they find them. All the vegetables go to the soup kitchens. So whether it's St. Vincent de Paul or Salvation Army, and visitors do munch as they come around. Yeah. When I harvest the red wigglers, they all go to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I have extras, like last year I had a whole bunch of extras, we sell them.
Okay.
Yeah.
People use them as bait or for
Yeah, I say don't use them for bait. The fish will laugh. Gosh, they're too small.
Oh,
they're not, like red wigglers are tiny and not juicy at all.
Oh, okay.
The other ones are invasive anyway, so why not?
Well, the earthworms, the dew worms, well, they were wiped out, right, during the Ice Age, and now they came back, just like everything else. So some of them I don't think are invasive, some may be invasive, but we need the worms, right? Who else is going to aerate and eat all the waste that falls on the ground, and all the carcasses of the rodents, right? Yeah, so we do need some worms. Like I said, they're #1 recyclers. And the Lower Mainland, they do compost their offal from the fish, right? But here it's an attractant. So I really discourage people from putting any meats, oils, or dairy products into the composter. Some people, if you're really keen and you are a guru at composting, they will put their cooked food waste in there, but I don't recommend it. Yeah, because I just don't want it in an attractant, right? And a lot of people are not so fussy composters, and then it just becomes a hassle. Yeah, and so when that happens, quite often we get called from bylaw services, and then I go in and speak to the neighbors on how to successfully compost or bear aware, and we work with them as well with the fruit exchange, and there's a Facebook page on fruit exchange, so if you have fruit or want fruit, then you can post there and get matched up. The Soil Saver is one of my favorite ones because it's short, square. You can get those locally too. And then our raspberries. And then this is one of my favorite composters. I like the BioStack just because you can take it apart. So easy to harvest, right? You don't have to doors. I hate doors. Nothing's in the doors. If you think about a house, all the insulation's in the middle. That's why you're turning it to get it through the thermophiles, right? And the little doors, useless. This one. Then we have the big home composter. They range anywhere from $50 to $300. Like, it's ridiculous. You can build them wood wire ones yourself, which are great. The door swings open. That works really well. So if you look under here, you can see all our little grapes are just starting to grow. They're fantastic. Little clumps of them. And then we have our bog garden. This is all our some more of our fruiting bushes. The squirrels and the visitors pick out the Saskatoons. Oh gosh, we've harvested a lot. It really took off this year. We sell the earth machines for the regional district. There, and then there's another one from Lee Valley Tools. So what we do is we fill this with organic matter and then throw our squashes in it. Then it just heats up. And you can see everything got away. We got a tree growing in our eco grass because we don't water it, and so you can see that the grass burnt. But everything else, there's sedums, clovers, thrifts, wildflowers, thymes. Those are all things that are lawn alternatives. Then we have our 3-bin composter, so that just allows us to have different ones going at different times. We have turning composters, which are my least favorite, because whether they're on here, you can only fill them like a third full, and then they're too heavy to turn, right? Even the ones that are on the turning stand, they're too heavy. But these ones are supposed to be turned every day, and you get compost in 2 weeks. But you're only working with maggots and flies and bacteria. You're not taking advantage of the soil organisms, so that's why it's my least favorite. Besides, it's heavy, and I hate things wet dripping on me. That's my least favorite thing. And then we have potatoes growing, and our horseradish is growing, and we got more worms. This bin's looking really good. You can see some of the worms just quickly went down. So it's pretty much ready to harvest. We just pull out the excess paper and stuff in there. Yeah, we collect Mondays and Thursdays from businesses in town, their kitchen waste, and that's what feeds the composters and our worms. Yeah, so we've been doing that since we started the garden because we needed a resource for the composters. So yeah. Yeah, so our plant sale is always the weekend after the long weekend in May, and that's one of our big fundraisers for us as well. So we use a lot of our plants, our babies, and we get donations from the community as well.